I want to thank you for coming this afternoon. I'm sorry the weather wasn't more cooperative, but we did the best we could. It's not going to dull our festivities at all, so thank you for coming. There's a few people in the crowd that I want to recognize at this time, if I may. And we have Peter Braid, MP from Kitchener. Peter? Here. We have Angela Veith, councillor from the city of Waterloo over here, the good-looking one. We have a contingent down from Windsor, our Solars chapter in Windsor. Bob, where's Bob and company? There he is at the back here. And I know I'm going to forget some people, but again, let me thank you for. And it was because of the hard work that our MP, Harold Albrecht, and our Minister Goodyear was able to put forth. So we thank them for it. We now can work inside on our locomotives and coaches without being out in the weather and the cold, and we think that's just going to be great. Some other people I'd like to for you to recognize, our Vice President of Board of Directors, Mac Campbell, our Treasurer here, Ross White. I want to say we really appreciate getting this building. I know the volunteers are quite pleased that we're now able to work indoors instead of out in the cold. At this time, I'd like to introduce the one of the fellows who made it really possible for us to have this building and get this grant through for us, and we're so pleased to be sitting in his riding. Let me introduce you to Harold Albrecht, MP, Kitchener-Conestoga.
Thank you, Ron, and it is a real joy for me to be here with you today. I don't know, those of you that were on the train as we were riding north, I'm sure you could tell the moment we crossed into my riding. It was that warm feeling you had coming into the riding of Kitchener-Conestoga. We have guests here from overseas today as well, and it's great to welcome them with us. I also want to acknowledge Mayor Bill Strauss over here. Councillor Mark Bauman, Councillor Murray Weidman, Murray Martin, and Councillor Ruby Weaver for hosting us today. And it is a pleasure to be joined by my colleague Peter Braid from the riding of Kitchener-Waterloo, and obviously Minister Goodyear, who will speak to us in just a few moments. In recent months, no doubt you have noticed the renewed sense of optimism that is taking shape throughout Waterloo Region and across Southern Ontario. The goal of our government is to continue building on this momentum. In the coming months, we intend to complete the mandate of Canada's Economic Action Plan. Our purpose is to create and preserve jobs while continuing to foster growth throughout Southern Ontario. 2 years ago, when we held our first consultation in preparation for Canada's Economic Action Plan, the creation of an economic development agency for Southern Ontario was a high priority. Our Prime Minister and our Cabinet listened, and today we have FedDev Ontario in Kitchener, and it has been very instrumental in getting a lot of economic development into all of Southern Ontario. So thank you for your response and for Prime Minister Harper's response in listening to the needs of Southwestern Ontario and particularly Waterloo Region.
And so we stand today in that shop, and let me also take a moment to thank the Southern Ontario Locomotive Restoration Society for hosting us today in this building. Now many of you I know have already had the pleasure, but I've just had a thrill riding up here from Waterloo. And it was quite a unique, rich and cultural experience, to say the least. I thought maybe we would see some Western gun-wielding folks running up and down the aisles to rob us. We didn't see that, but that's maybe not the history we need to talk about that is rich here in the Waterloo region for the past century. And so I'm excited to see this train and this building that will help the train stay on the tracks and celebrate our rich culture and our heritage in this region, as well as, frankly, provide some growth to our tourism and creating those jobs for many centuries to come. Ladies and gentlemen, as Harold has already mentioned, the Conservative government's priority is focused on the economy. That is our focus, creating jobs, protecting jobs, stabilizing the economy, diversifying it, and building it as we go into the future. And the reason we're doing that is because that's exactly what Canadians expect their government to do. It's what they expect, and it's what they deserve. In the past few years, as a government, we've reduced taxes of every kind imaginable. We've invested in roads and bridges, waterworks, sewers, community centers, and so many, many others. And the good news is, ladies and gentlemen, that our plans are working. We are seeing a renewed confidence in the country. In fact, since May of last year, we've created 220,000 new jobs in Ontario alone. That is fantastic, yet the economy remains somewhat fragile. And so the government recognized a long time ago that we needed to do more work, and that is exactly why Prime Minister Stephen Harper set up the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, or FedDev, and gave it a 5-year mandate to provide the tools and resources that communities and businesses would need. But in addition to that, this project will promote tourism in our area, which sustains and creates jobs in the Waterloo region on into the future. Our government has also made a number of other investments. For example, here in the St. Jacobs area, including the rehabilitation of the Trans-Canada Trail Link at St. Jacobs Farmers Market, funded under another one of FedDev programs, the Recreational Infrastructure Program of Ontario. In the coming months, in fact, we just started this week announcing a number of new initiatives from FedDev Ontario, which will focus on the skills and training of individuals, on improving productivity and innovation to ensure that Southern Ontario continues to create jobs and diversify its economies and become a key competitor in the global economy. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, let me assure you that our government will continue to work with our people, our partners, our stakeholders to support your families, my family, our communities together, and the businesses in this region. We will therefore, as a team, pave the way for long-term growth and reposition Southern Ontario where it always should have been as an economic leader in this country. Congratulations again to the Southern Ontario Locomotive Restoration Society, all the volunteers. Thank you so much for the work you do. It's been a pleasure being here. I look forward to the train ride back to Waterloo. Thank you again. And how about on 3? 1, 2, 3.
Good work, Harold.
Good work, Harold. Happy birthday, buddy. Works back in 1923.
I have to be at a 40-year retirement to say a few words. And at 6:30.
Ready to the platform?